We're going to call to order the public safety meeting. Today is January 31st. It's about 1:08. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Present.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Bosley.
Present.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderwoman Rice.
Present.
Alderman Todd.
Present.
Alderman Page.
Present.
Alderwoman Keys.
Here.
Chair Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer. We have 12 present. You have a quorum.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and look at the minutes out of the way. I need the approval of the minutes for the January 24th meeting and the January 25th committee meetings.
So moved.
I'll second it. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus.
I would like to note that I have seniority over Christina. We established that, so you have them in the incorrect order.
So noted. I will have. the
Thank you.
clerk-
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley. Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice.
Aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderman Page.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Chair Vaccaro.
Aye.
12 aye votes.
Okay, so what we're going to start with is the resolution. Resolution number 172. So what I'm going to do, we had the subcommittee, which I want to thank the subcommittee for putting this together. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My dogs insisted that they come in the room, and then they decided to make noise. So Alderwoman Boyd and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and Alderwoman Howard went down the list of all the different applicants, and it's kind of an unusual this year. They were able to give equal amounts of money to everyone that applied. So Alderwoman Boyd, if you can go down the list, let us know who all applied. And this, at this meeting, just so we understand, at this meeting, what happens is once we approve it, it does not go back to the full board. Once we approve these, so if there's any adjustments, this is where they would get made. Once it's approved, it just goes straight up to be sent out to the organizations to know that this is their amount of money they get. So Alderwoman Boyd, if you can go through and just start letting us know the list of who all and who got what, and if there's any questions, we'll go through the board.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderwoman Howard and Clark Hubbard and myself went through the list of all the applicants that we had, and 3 of the applicants didn't request a high dollar amount, so we just gave them that amount after we checked their paperwork and stuff. And that was the 22nd Judicial Circuit Family Court Juvenile Division. They only requested $15,000. Wyman Center only requested $45,000 and Roosevelt only requested $47,000. And so what Alderwoman Howard and Clark Hubbard and myself did, we subtracted that from that total amount and we divided it by the rest of those organizations, and that's how we distributed those funds. I did send a email to Mr. Pickney and let him know, since we did not have an administrator and we acted in that piece, that we took those dollars and added to that so we could come up with that 53.2. He didn't have any problem with it. He said they were still in the process of trying to hire somebody. He did ask, we want him to send the information to those organizations. And I said, that's the normal process. You all should be the ones contact them, telling them the process and how they apply for their dollars. And so on that note, did you want me to tell you everybody? Did the committee want me to tell everybody? Okay.
Please just go down the list.
So the rest of them will give $53,200, and that's Prison Performing Arts, Pianos for People, Northside Youth, Mission St. Louis, Live for Life, LifeWise, STL Intersect Arts, Harambe Youth Training, Throwing and Growing Foundation, Thomas Dunn Learning Center, The Village, and Story Stitchers, St. Louis Story Stitchers, Roosevelt Community, Athenia Health, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Eastern Missouri, Building Futures, Community First, Gateway Region, Jean Slay Boys and Girls Club, and Good Journey.
And I believe everybody had that list. I know we sent it, although it's not in front of me. I believe the clerk sent it to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I got it. It was on mine, yes.
So I think what we'll do, I think I'm going to go down the list. We'll start with the vice chairman and go from there. So vice chairwoman, I'm sorry. Vicewoman, I want to just say Sharon, but I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll answer to that.
Anyway, do you have questions or changes or thoughts?
I did want her to point out to people so that there is not a problem, the difference between Roosevelt and Roosevelt Community, the organization.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Roosevelt is the high school and Roosevelt Community is a non-for-profit organization.
Okay. And can you tell me what if you remember, because I was supposed to be on this committee and I just couldn't do it. What will the high school be doing with crime prevention? Is that something with after school youth?
Yeah, that was from what I remember, and Alderwoman Hubbard might be able to help me. I remember they were doing after school programs.
Okay. All right. I know pretty much most of the other ones. I know Live for Life. Hombre. What's the Throwing and Growing Foundation? Can't remember that one. I know the Thomas Stern.
The Throwing and Growing focus, and they're kind of unique. Alderwoman Tyus, they are focused on shot put, and they do they're teaching it's girls. That's who it is. It's girls. They focus on shot put. The creator of Throwing and Growing is a gold medal winner. She received a gold medal in the senior classification for shot put, and her mother received it. And ironically, I'm proud. They were in my ward, and I was so excited when I heard that they had got gold medals for shot put, and they teach the youth about gardening.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And what about Wyman Center?
Wyman Center is after-school program, and they are like the Boys and Girls Clubs, and they're like the Tandy Centers. They're on that level. They have baseball, Redbird Rookies. I know that, yeah.
And so Mission St. Louis, they help like seniors do small projects. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Home repair.
And I'm just gonna say, so my heart tugs at, I wish we, and I didn't do it, so I'm gonna vote for what you put together, but I wish we would have given more money to them, because we have not been able to address our seniors at all. And most of this is youth oriented. And this is kind of the piece that I think that in the future, when we come back, that we might, because I know the seniors are not out knocking people over their heads and stuff, but I want to find a way to at least get them. They do a really good job. I refer a lot of people to Mission St. Louis, and they cannot accommodate the people that I do. But that's one of the places that seniors feel comfortable in going. And I accept that that's a good amount of money, but that's really not enough for them. And we need to find a way with ARPA or something else to fund them more money. That's all I'm going to say. Right.
Now, I do know that administration, when with that healthy home piece, they allocated $5 million to Mission St. Louis.
Okay.
I do know they played a role in that, and you're correct, because I've had seniors that's benefited from Mission St. Louis, and they gave great reviews for their work.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay. Alderwoman Davis.
I have no questions. Thank you for the work the subcommittee has done.
Alderwoman Gracias and Gracia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a quick question. I just heard the Alderman from the first mention the two different numbers under Roosevelt. I just want to make sure it's not a mistake. I am very familiar with the Roosevelt Community Council, who helps the school run after-school programs. They typically apply for funding. The high school itself has never historically applied for funding. I don't know that there were two applications, but I didn't review those. And I'm curious because LifeWise, under LifeWise, it says LifeWise STL Intersect Arts. Maybe those are supposed to be two different organizations. I'm also familiar with the work that LifeWise does. The Intersect Art piece is a separate organization. So we might need to do some cleanup here.
Okay, thank you.
So in what way?
So I think
This
she's
is what
saying
this-
LifeWise STL should be one organization, Intersect Art should be another. Roosevelt and Roosevelt Community should be one. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
I have not seen the application, so I don't know if Intersect Arts applied for funding or if your intent was to give them funding. I just wanted to bring to your attention that LifeWise is a separate organization from STL Intersect.
Okay.
And possibly, I could be wrong because again, I haven't reviewed any of the documents that you all did, but historically, over the past 10 years, Roosevelt Community Council applies for funding for after school, but the high school itself has never submitted an application.
Okay, we can review those go back through them.
Well, here's the problem. Whatever we do, we have to do here now because it has to come out of committee, and we can't, and it does not go back to the full board. So if there's, we'll keep going through the committee, and Alderman and Gracias, I know you don't like when I had that S. It's just it comes off that way. I'm sorry. Just hang on, make your notes, and we'll come back around, because if money needs to be moved, this is when we move it. Okay, because once it's out of here, we're done.
I appreciate that. I just don't think that I have the information that I need in order to make changes, because I don't know who applied for what funding. I do not have access to the applications or any of the other documents.
Well, while they doing that, I can look it up from the emails to see, because they send us the information, so I can look it up.
And I believe Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you also probably are aware of these things, right?
I think she's looking now.
Yeah, okay. So let me just keep going down the list, and we're going to circle back on these. Alderwoman Spencer's not here. Alderman Boyd's looking. Alderman Bosley. His phone, he cuts in and out sometimes. Alderman Ryan.
I don't have any questions on this. It sounds like there just needs to be some sort of a committee sub or something with what the Alderwoman from the 6th pointed out. So I'll just be waiting on that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's not really a committee sub in a sense, but it's whatever this group decides, that's where it goes, I believe. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you're looking for stuff. You're up. You're also up if you want. Otherwise, I'll jump over you and come back to you. I'll jump over. Alderwoman Rice.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just a small note that I also have seniority ahead of Alderman Ryan and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. That's okay. I've asked a few times that I think with as many hearings as we're having right now, it's busy, so it's fine.
It's the way they send me.
Yeah,
they send me that list.
I know. I have the same list. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But Christine and I were both since we both represent students that go to Roosevelt, that's what we were trying to clarify. I believe Nora Ryan is the applicant or the person who signed the application to the Roosevelt Community Council, and they did request the smaller number of the 47, but I think it was like 47,400 or 47,300. So hopefully we can get that exact application there. And they do, the Roosevelt Community Council is who does the after school programming. Yeah, I think just cleaning that up. I'm happy with the rest of it. It's always good to get money out into the community though. Thanks.
Yeah, it's, and what's funny about this, we've given money every year, and some of the years they don't spend the money. In order, they have to spend it and then show, like submit the bills, and it's funny that those years that some of these don't spend them, and that's why we keep changing how we're doing this.
Sure. I know we also just came out of, pandemic programming too, that folks weren't
Right.
able to have host the same types of programs that they thought they'd be able to at the beginning of the year with the ask. So I appreciate that.
Well, Alderman Todd.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions. I'll just wait until the subcommittee verifies the applications and dollar amounts.
Okay, and then Alderwoman Keys. And she, I know.
I'm so sorry, no question.
Okay, I know she's
Thank you.
on a tight schedule. She's on her way off to an appointment. So I think what I'm going to do is everybody is there anybody off the committee that has any questions or would like to say something that's here? I don't see anybody. So if you're on the committee, just go ahead and turn your mics on. Let's just make this more of an open discussion. Alderman Rice and Alderwoman Rice and Alderwoman Christine, and have you guys looked at that, or Alderwoman Shameem, have you looked at this?
Yeah, the only thing I'll note, I'm just trying to look around my notes, is that I do have Intersect Arts and Lifewise down as two separate applications, and this information came from Mr. Will Pinckney, and I do have it down as not the high school. I'm not sure how it got translated into being the high school, but I do have it down as Roosevelt Community Council. But I'm trying to look through my other notes, and the papers, if you can imagine, it was a lot of paper that we looked through. And so I don't have all of those papers sitting in front of me, but I'm trying to check my notes.
But they're two different organizations altogether.
Absolutely. On my notes, I have them from Will Pinckney and from a draft that he sent us. I have Intersect Arts and Likewise as two different ones. And I do not have Roosevelt High School. I have Roosevelt Community Council.
Do you have a dollar amount on the Roosevelt Community Council, just to make sure we get that one correct?
So that I have, what the note, this what I have now is from after, right? So after we look through the application. And I know that anything that was under what we had divided it up, when Alderwoman Howard divided it up, anything that was a specific ask, we gave them first, and then we divided it up through the rest of the applicants.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
want to honestly assume that that number that we have there is exactly what they asked for, because I remember us having that as a discussion, but again, I'm trying to look, I'm actually gonna walk up and see, because maybe they haven't, I asked them to shred all that paper, because you know how I am about all those papers. But I mean, when we can just look it up.
Okay, so, but
I'm gonna go look and see, just in case they did not shred them, maybe I can find it really quickly.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure if it was an exact ask of like 47,400, that we make sure that 400, because it's still less than the 53.2 that we're giving to the other organizations, but that may change the math.
Well, I might want to point out, though, we might not be able to do the 400 because if St. Louis Intersect Arts is a separate entity and Roosevelt is just one, if we move the 400, we're going to have to adjust all those amounts. Whereas if we just move the one Roosevelt over to the Intersect Arts, then we don't have to change all the other amounts.
It's math. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So, I had a question, Mr. Chairman. So I thought we were going to have, are we having another public safety meeting next week?
yes, we are.
So why, if we can't find the dollar amount for this, do we want to try to make sure we get it right before we vote on it? If we can't get the correct number?
And I don't disagree. I would leave that up to the, to the two that did the, the subcommittee. Because I know that Alderwoman Boyd was working on all the timelines on when this had to be out and when it has to be up in public safety. So I will actually, we'll just open this up to everybody, but Alderwoman Boyd.
I would rather wait if we could because then me and Alderwoman Howard and Hubbard, we can look at it to make sure that documentation is correct. And then we can present it back to the committee amended to make sure the right numbers are in there.
Okay. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, did you find this stuff yet?
And I apologize because us three was trying to get that out and we're past the deadline because we received the documents so late. And so
here's what I'm going to say. So sorry.
Alderwoman Howard and Hubbard and ourselves took 2 days to try to go through all that. So I would rather for us to go back, look through to make sure we have the right information, the right dollar amounts, and then we can represent it.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, any?
Yeah, they moved all the papers that we had up front, so I couldn't go pull the application, but look, actually, Ms. Bird is here. I'm gonna see if she can get to it really quickly, the application for Roosevelt Community Council.
Alderwoman Rice, it's just an open conversation. You don't have to, you can just jump in.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll ask her if she can pull it and see.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess my only other question is, so this is $1 million fund every year, and did we have an excess of 117,800 over the $1 million?
We did have an excess because we did not have an administrator.
Got it. Okay. So the total amount available is that 1,117,800.
Right. Because of the administrator, we added that back into it. And we did notify Mr. Pinkley so he would know that since that administrator, we would use those funds to try to ensure that all those people got some sort of funding.
Okay. And so is it just that we don't have a position that is filled to administrate the funds?
No, they haven't filled the position. They have not filled any position.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I think there's probably even a lot more left over than that.
Okay.
Because I know last year or the year before, that leftover number was a whole lot more. But then I think we went ahead and did go ahead and let it get out. Because they said, well, we can send it to here, and I think that it was brought up that that shouldn't be that way. So I wouldn't doubt if there's even still money above that, but you know, without somebody to tell us what didn't get distributed, you know, we don't know that. But I'm glad at least they did.
I'm going to suggest that we make sure we get the numbers right. If we're already behind the date that we were supposed to do it, nobody's going to turn down the money and say, well, you're 5 days late. We don't want the money. I can guarantee you that. So if we get it right, and I think everybody feels that they were treated fairly, I think that that's a better way to do it, and that we don't have anybody concerned about it wasn't fair or wasn't legal or something like that. So I would prefer to get it right.
Well, I like what they did, because in the past, some groups would get $200,000 and other groups would get $5 million. And I remember one year somebody said, look, you can just keep it if that's not even enough to help us. So, you know, I think that the approach they took was a much better approach. And you're right, the funds, they actually should be going out right now. You know, and so I do want to move on as quick as we can, because you know, I mean, there are groups that are actually wanting to submit bills now that are waiting for this money. That much I do know. So so I don't know. I know Alderwoman Clark Hubbard was looking, and I know once we pass this, it does not go back to the full board. I do know that. I think she's got some papers. Maybe we can figure this out.
Okay, the proposed budget they asked for was $47,496.
So who was that from, Alderwoman Hubbard?
Roosevelt Community Council.
And so did we have somebody for Roosevelt?
We have them on here for 47. Let me pull it up.
I think she's asking, do we have a separate request besides the Roosevelt community? Do we have somebody from Roosevelt High School? I think is the question.
Not that I know of, no.
So
Okay.
that is exactly, so we just got them confused.
Right.
So that's going to change the numbers by a little bit that everybody gets.
And so the lift for
Likewise, and Intersect Arts are two different organizations.
And so the
Okay.
easiest things to me is just to take the 53,000 from the so take the 53,000 from Roosevelt Community, give it to St. Louis Intersect, and then give Roosevelt, the not-for-profit, the 4,700. They would be $400 short, but that's not going to kill anybody. And that's the easiest, cleanest way to do it. If that's the only problems, if we have some other problems, then we need to do it. But if we just move the money around, if there is no Roosevelt High School and Roosevelt Community only asked for 47, or we could give them 47.4 and give STL Intersect the difference between 47 and 53. So it's two ways you could do it.
Well,
I'm fine with either way. So, I mean, we can take one from the Roosevelt, and that's
Right.
how much.
okay, so why don't we do this? If everybody, Christine, or Alderwoman Christine, you don't have to raise your hand. Just jump in. We're just doing an open. It's easy.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'd prefer to give Roosevelt the $400 if we can. I know it's only $400, but they asked, they're getting less than everyone else. But
No, they're not. That ain't not, because 27 judicial system only got 15.
I apologize, Alderwoman. That's not what I meant. I meant the
Yeah.
less amount from the 53. So they didn't, I think if we can give them the 400, I'd prefer that. They run a really exceptional program. It does really great work for kids that attend Roosevelt. So if we can, I'd prefer it, but if it doesn't work out, I don't think it's going to kill their program for $400.
Right.
Well, let's do
So
this.
we could give, we'll give, I don't have it in front of, we'll give, what was the other one, Alderwoman Hubbard, the other, the two we put together, the Live for Life and the arts.
No,
Right.
like intersect arts and LifeWise STL. Live for Life is a separate one too. So that's three different ones you talk. Which one you talking about? We got intersect arts, LifeWise, and Live for Life.
Okay, so Live for Life is already allocated their dollars, right?
They're
52.
right.
Okay, so we would split the other two to make it to the two organizations. Both of them get the 53-2. And then the Roosevelt community will get the 47.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do this.
Are you okay with that, Alderwoman Hubbard?
I'm actually trying to find where they are twice.
It's
Roosevelt and Roosevelt Community are the same thing. So
Right.
Roosevelt is the third one and it's for 4,700. And that was supposed to be the high school, but there was no high school. Roosevelt Community is the first one on the second page and it's for 53-2. And that's not what they asked for. They asked for 47-4. So what we were going to do is just give them the 47 that we gave to the Roosevelt High School. And because they should have been Roosevelt Community anyway. And in fact, we could just, instead of saying that's a high school, we could just take where it says Roosevelt and put community right there. And that gives them 47. And then we scratch out Roosevelt Community over here and put St. Louis Intersect Arts.
So let's do this. Seems like we have a plan. Let's start with the first one. We'll do them one by one and put a dollar amount with it till we get to the bottom, and then we'll have it that way. So
the judicial system, the judicial circuit family court juvenile division to give 15,000.
Correct.
Wyman to give 45,000.
Correct.
And so we won't, we'll have Roosevelt Community. will
Correct.
give 47,000.
Correct.
Pianos for People.
well, let's do this. Let's approve them one by one. So
Okay.
what's the very first thing on the list?
22nd Judicial Circuit Family Court Juvenile Division, 15,000.
And everybody's fine with that, right? If somebody's not fine, just jump in. Second,
Ryman Center, 45,000.
no questions. Okay, next.
Chairman Vaccaro, just to jump in here real quick. I think it probably makes more sense to get these out as a slate rather than one by one, because if we're getting them out one by one, we're going to
No, we're not.
potentially not have money left over at the end if there's any error, and we'll already have
We're not voting on it
We're
right now.
we're gonna vote on
We're
this.
just finding out if there's a problem, right?
I got you.
There were
Okay.
some questions in the, so right now we're just one by one, who's getting what? Because there was some questions. The money, the subcommittee has it all allocated, right? There was one left over. So we're just going one by one so that we assign a dollar amount and we all agree that this was the dollar amount.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
It passes out as a slate. So I'm sorry, so 45 for Ryman, next then Alderwoman Boyd.
Roosevelt Community, 47.
Okay.
And then all
Somebody
the ones coming now are 53-2. Prisoner Performing Arts, Pianos for People, Northside Youth, Mission St. Louis, Live for Life, LifeWise, STL, and then Intersect Arts. Then Harambe Youth Training, Growing and Growing, Thomas Dunn Learning Center, The Village, The Story Stitchers, Athenia, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Building Futures, Community First, Gateway Region, Jean Slay, Boys and Girls Club, and Good Journey.
So does everybody agree that that sounds proper now? Okay, so we moved, because of the Roosevelt, we moved every, so if everybody's fine with that, then we can actually make a motion and get this laid out as we just said. If that's what everybody's fine with, and that way we could send it up, and this way the groups that have already asking like, where's our money? They can start distributing it in the public safety department will administrate this. You know, they're the administrators of this.
I move that we adopt resolution number 172 as corrected.
And
Second.
I don't even know if it's as corrected. I mean, I think it's just.
It's definitely as corrected.
It's corrected, because we
Okay.
changed it.
I didn't even know it was in any order.
But the amounts changed, so we can say as amended, as corrected, but we have to
Okay.
show that it
So-
changed. We need a new typed, we need
Right.
something typed address attached to it so that it
Right.
correct, it is, so you can say as amended, as corrected. either
That's
one.
correct. That's fine. So we have a motion by Alderwoman Tyus and a second by I forget who-
Alderwoman Boyd,
Alderwoman Boyd. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
I guess you didn't note it.
I know, yeah. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Alderwoman Tyus,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
aye.
Alderman Bosley, Alderman Rice, Alderman Ryan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderman Todd,
Aye.
Alderman Page,
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys, Chair Vaccaro,
Aye. So
Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Bosley. We have 10 aye votes.
Alderwoman Spencer is here. I think
Yes,
she's
she
just
said
under
aye.
Teresa's name.
She said aye. I heard her say aye.
I said aye. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
She's incognito.
There you go. So by your motion, we've put together the slate and has accepted the resolution as amended. And Alderwoman Boyd, I
Point
assume,
of order.
yes,
We have to have our faces show, we have to show our faces to vote. So can the Alderwoman from the 20th, did she leave already? We can't have.
I'm
Okay,
still here. We were having problems. I had my, let's see. Does this work?
now we saw your face for a
There you
minute. Can
are.
you say aye? Right.
there you are. You're here now. We can see.
Yeah, just have her say aye, so she's on record.
Just say aye.
Thank you. Aye.
There we go. Okay, now we got it. So we passed this. Alderwoman Boyd, you're going to get this up to public safety and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Yes.
So at this point, we, as a committee, we don't have to do anything, and I don't have to, and that's wonderful.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
could I just add, so since we amended this resolution and it's not going back to the full board, I just want to make sure that what we've corrected here gets uploaded to our website in place of the resolution. Will that
yes,
happen as a replacement for what was already listed on the website?
yes.
Okay.
Tracy, did you write everything down?
I have Roosevelt and Roosevelt High School.
No.
Just Roseville community.
Just, okay.
So if we could, if we could get make sure that we get what we did sent to everybody at the full board.
Okay,
I'll
so
send the corrections to the clerk, and then
Thank
they
you.
can redo the resolution. Thank
I
you.
may I make a recommendation?
Sure.
In order to make sure that this is absolutely correct. I would like to ask Mr. Chairman that the clerk listens to this again so that it is listed appropriately. I don't want to take a chance on several other people combining another list on their own. It has been verbalized the correct, and she can copy it from there and prepare it and put it in our drives. Okay?
Yes, I'll watch the meeting again.
Okay,
Thank you so
please-
much.
and please make sure, yes, it's listed correctly. Okay. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go on to Board Bill 137. I know that at 2:00 I do have to do something, so the vice chair, do you want to take this from the beginning or you want to take over once I have to leave?
I'm perfectly fine either way. It's your decision.
I'm good either way. Well, let me get it kicked off, and then I may have to step out just for like 5 minutes. I just got, anyway. So Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you want to speak to us a little bit about Board Bill 137? It sounds vaguely familiar. Is this like just trying to correct a different board bill?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I will ask if the clerk can read the preamble to Board Bill 137 committee sub. And then we need to put the committee sub before us.
Okay. Well, this isn't a committee sub, it's a whole new board bill.
Well, Board Bill 137 was introduced back in December 9th of 2022. This is a committee sub that's a reflection of ongoing conversations with our city council's office to make sure that we are in compliance with the findings that came out of the judge's ruling when it was taken to court. So there is a committee sub that's been in the drive that the clerk put in the drive. I'm sure I
didn't get it.
Right, I
didn't see the committee sub, I'm fine. But go ahead and read Board Bill 131, Board Bill 137. Go ahead and read that.
Board Bill number 137, introduced by Alderwoman Shameem Clark Hubbard, an ordinance to provide for the independent investigations of law enforcement misconduct and use of force incidents. The bill repeals ordinance number 71556 and enacts in lieu thereof an ordinance that reconstitutes and provides staff support for the Civilian Oversight Board and provides coordination and staff support for the Detention Facility Oversight Board, created by ordinance number 71430. The bill also establishes the Division of Civilian Oversight with the Department of Public Safety and authorizes the establishment of Public Integrity Unit directed by the City Circuit Attorney in the City of St. Louis.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So again, Board Bill 137 is in response to the judge's findings. If you remember, we don't have to go back to the 20+ years that civilian oversight has been in a forefront and in a fight for us, for our community and for our constituency. And so we got it past another line, right? Because that was like, I think the 3rd or 4th iteration that we passed in Board Bill 47, and that was taken to court. And so now in response to that, we have Board Bill 137, which we now have Board Bill 137 committee sub. And again, it was introduced back in December, and I did have some different conversations. If people had any questions, I apologize. Because everybody knows how I am. I normally reach out to my colleagues prior to situations like this, prior to committee hearings, but due to some unforeseen things, I wasn't able to get to people yesterday to see if they had any questions about the sub. But hey, just know that this it still has the same part that a Civilian Oversight Board was put in place for when we did Board Bill 47. This one is to make sure, and I got the words here, I'm sure some of my colleagues that are the lawyers, I learned this from the lawyers, to make expressively and unmistakably clear, right, that we are in compliance with the findings that were shown that came out of the judge's hearing. So I do have Commissioner Brumman on the call with me today. I would like for him to speak And then hope you all have gotten the committee sub in front of you all. There were some changes that made here. And just so you know, this was so much of a good faith effort. Some of these changes were made not just through the findings, but through conversations that were had with officers. I won't name the different organizations, but with officers and different people that were involved to make sure, and different our constituencies and our members of our public, members of the civilian members of the public that would like to make sure that this is still outstanding. So what a Civilian Oversight Board is put in place for. So with that, I just want to make sure that Commissioner Brumman is able to speak, and then I will answer any questions that any of you all may have.
Sure, no,
Point
Commissioner,
of order, point of order, point of order.
oh, go ahead.
I don't have a committee sub. I just have a marked copy and a clean copy of Board Bill 137. 47 we passed, and it became an ordinance on 9/3/22. And it became ordinance number, let's see what the ordinance number is, 71556.
So, yeah, that's what I have.
So we don't have a committee sub, and so there's no committee sub to be before us, and you would have to have that to the committee 24 hours before. Are you sure we're just not doing an entirely new different board bill?
It is a different board bill, it's 137, not 47. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. This is 137, but no, what we have is not a different board bill from 137.
And so, but you keep saying,
Seven years older.
you keep saying committee sub, and what I'm saying, what he said, when you repeal an old ordinance and you bring one that's a lot like it, it's still a new board bill. So unless there's something that was different than what you introduced on December the 9th, it's not a committee sub. It's just showing us where we changed Board Bill 47 to reflect what you have in 137. So I want to make sure that we have it correct.
Okay, what I do want to note is that I found the email where the clerk sent it out to all of us yesterday at 9:13 a.m. And he has it written, and he has it stated as Board Bill 137 committee sub. So I apologize if I'm saying it wrong.
No, you're not. I just don't have it. That's why I was trying to make sure. He sent it out at 9:30.
9:13 a.m. Yes, ma'am.
And he calls it a committee sub.
Yeah.
And Alderwoman Rice, you just jump in, it's okay.
Sure, I didn't want to interrupt anyway. So I think the confusion, Alderwoman Tyus, is that we did pass Board Bill 47 earlier in this session, and then that was what was sued on. And so the findings that have come back from the court are now reflected in Board Bill 137. So
There's
it's
137 in
so-
the drive under Board Bills Committee sub.
right, there's,
Let's say committee sub though.
right, so 40,
It's
40
one.
sorry, just to clarify, 47 was the original bill that Alderwoman Clark Hubbard brought last year. It was passed by the full board, signed by the mayor, then there was a lawsuit. Then this 137 is now the attempt to change what was signed into law and sued upon. And then there's the committee substitute that was emailed out yesterday and should be in your drive.
And where is that? Did the clerk say where it was?
Yeah, it's under board bills.
It's under Board Bills in the Public Safety Drive.
I see.
It should be 137 committee sub marked copy.
Oh, marked copy committee
Yeah.
sub. Okay. All right.
Okay. So Vice Chairwoman Tyus,
Yes.
is it okay? Should we go ahead and let the commissioner
Yes.
speak? So I can give us a background of what we're changing, what the court said and what's changed.
Could I move to place Board Bill 137 committee substitute in front of the committee so that we can make sure we're discussing the one we want to here?
Sure.
I make that motion.
Second.
Is there,
Vote.
is there a call for previous roll? Otherwise, we'll call the roll.
Previous roll.
Okay, hearing no objection, Board Bill 137 committee sub is now in front of us. And as a Commissioner Brumman, I guess, or Chairman Brumman, I'm not sure.
Commissioner Ulrich, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you all, and thank you for taking the time and the work to consider this. After the bill was passed earlier in this session, the court placed an injunction on the Division of Civilian Oversight, and so we are prevented from implementing the ordinance with regards to the police department. We still are allowed to implement it with regards to corrections, and that's what we're doing. But we haven't been able to do anything towards the police department. This bill addresses the two issues raised by the court in its injunction. One is that it
Pardon 1 second. Alderman Tyus, I have to
Yes.
run out front just for a minute. So if you would please take over, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
No problem.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. The first one it addresses is that the original ordinance calls for a complaint in any form, but to comply with Missouri state law, this requires that complaints be accompanied by a written statement as required by law. The second change is that the original ordinance called for immediate statements at the scenes of incidents. State law requires a 24-hour notice. And so this new ordinance requires compliance with state law as far as obtaining statements.
Okay. Anything else?
The rest is substantively the same, absent like some wording changes to make it more consistent.
With these changes, the court said we will be allowed to then implement the ordinance. Is that correct?
I don't have any knowledge of what the court has said, but that would be the logical conclusion.
That's a good answer. You're not going to testify to hearsay. That's a good answer. Okay. But we will assume, and if not, we will be taken to court again, and the courts will tell us, no, that's not what we can do. All right. Alderwoman, if you have anybody else that you want to speak to the board bills?
I was also just gonna say assume and hope, because we absolutely absolutely went above and beyond to address the findings. So I want to now see if there were any speakers for or against, but open it up to the speakers.
Yes,
You can talk to my.
we have two speakers. Keith Rose and John Chesnoff.
Okay, just a minute here. I'm printing this out right now. I don't want this noise to bother you. Then I have to swear you in. And are both of you here in favor of the proposed ordinance?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, so we don't have to talk about the opposition. And I usually give people more than 3 minutes, because I never can say what I want to say in 3 minutes. Just 1 minute. Got the last page to do. Okay, if both of you, can you hear me all right? My printer still has a couple more pages. If both of you would raise your hand, we are required to swear you in if you're going to testify before the Board of Aldermen. If you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before the Public Safety Committee is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, do you have any preference, Alderwoman? Who should go first? Okay, who signed up first, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chesnoff did.
I have Keith Rose.
Okay, well, Keith, you can sign up. You can speak first.
Well, that's not how I recall it occurring, but thank you. Thank you, Alderwoman. So thank you for giving us the chance to remedy the problems that we saw in this bill. As we've seen recently with the videos of Tyree Nichols, even reports coming out this morning that the initial police report that was filed by people who knew that there was video evidence contradicting their statements, contained factual inaccuracies of what happened. It really goes to show the kinds of oversight that we do not have and that we need. We need people who are, checking people's reports, making sure that their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed. As we saw just yesterday with reports coming out from our own department of $5.2 million spent on just 2 hours of protesting, in addition to $5 million more in a payout to an officer from 3 hours prior to that on that night in September 2017. We know that there are systemic problems in the department that need to be addressed. It's not only a civil rights issue, it is an economic issue. And having a civilian oversight board that is effective will prevent, hopefully, more of those lawsuits in the future by actually stopping the root causes of that behavior that's leading to the civil rights violations. And so they'll also make our community safer. I want to say that having reviewed this committee substitute, there are a few things that we would have liked to have seen in it that are not in it, but nonetheless, we are still going to, or when I say we, I mean CAPCAR, an organization I am part of, are still going to support this version of the Civilian Oversight Board bill. For years now, I have attended the COB committee, the COB hearings as one of the only members of the public who actually does that. I can say that the board really has been understaffed, has been under-resourced these last few years. So hopefully some of these changes are going to take effect. I don't know if any of you know this, but since the lawsuit last fall, our Civilian Oversight Board has not been meeting. So we actually have less civilian oversight now than we did a year ago whenever we wanted to expand civilian oversight. So putting these measures in place to get the board back to doing its job would be really helpful. There is one simple thing that I would like to see in an amendment, maybe a floor amendment, probably the simplest amendment you'd ever submit. In the initial legislation for the COB Board Bill 47, the initial legislation last year, there was a random numbering of the districts to correspond with the wards. So District 1 was new wards 1 and 2, District 2 was 3 and 4, and so on. And because of that random assortment, we were actually left with a map that doesn't make sense. So there are 2 of these districts that are non-contiguous. They are districts, one moment, districts 2 and 7. So I would propose that some member of the board just submit a very simple amendment to swap out 2 of the districts with 2 others. I've drawn a map of what would make sense for things to be contiguous. And I think that basic good governance amendment would really help the COB be more functional so that similar communities will be represented by one representative from a district, as opposed to people on opposite sides of the city of St. Louis represented by one representative. That makes sense. Other than that, I do support this, and I would encourage you all to pass the committee substitute. Thank you.
Okay. You don't happen to know what page? I didn't read the committee substitute. You don't know what page?
Oh, I do actually. It's page 37. Thank you. Page 37, starting at line 3, lists the districts and the wards they're assigned to.
And it is your contention that 7, that you say 2 and 7 should be switched?
Yes, ma'am. So I would keep districts 1, 4, 5 all the same. And doing minimum changes, I would suggest that District 2 contain wards 4 and 5. District 3 contain wards 3 and 6. District 6 contain wards 11 and 14. And District 7 contain wards 14 and, sorry, not 14. District 7 contain wards 12 and 13. And I have it written if anyone would like me to send it to them. But it's just right now we have 2 districts that are physically detached from each other. And by just swapping 2 around, everyone would be contiguous.
So you're saying District 1 would be wards 1 and 2, that's okay.
Yes,
District 2 would be wards 3 and would go to 4 and 5 instead of 3 and 4.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, District 3, right now it's 5 and 6, and you said that should go to 3 and 6.
Yes, ma'am.
District 4 is okay at wards 7 and 8.
Yes.
District 5, ward 9 and 10 is okay.
Yes, ma'am.
District 6, ward 11 and 14, you say should be changed to?
Yes, ma'am.
And then District 7 should be 12 and 13.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sponsor, is that something you agree to, Madam Sponsor?
I'm looking, I just made the same notes you did, so I'm actually just pulling up a map on my phone. I'm gonna look into it as well while we remain on the column.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Alderwoman Hubbard, I've written it up as a colored map. If you'd like me to just email it to you really quick.
Oh, that would be great. You know, I love that.
Wonderful. What is your email address, ma'am?
I'll put it in the chat,
Thank you.
so you don't have to try to write it down.
Okay, but it makes sense to me, because I'm looking at this thing, and so this was done, and it was just something that wasn't part of the court's order, but it was something we needed to clean up. We were gonna have to clean it up anyway. Because when we came back, we won't have these wards the way we had them, and we didn't know where they were going to be assigned. And he's right, they were just randomly done. And so now that we actually know what the ward's going to look like and what's contiguous and what's adjacent, you shouldn't have somebody representing part of South St. Louis and then coming over and representing part of North St. Louis. So can you send that, would you give it to the clerk, Madam Sponsor, so she can share it with everybody, the map? Thank you. Okay, while we're doing that, is there anyone on the committee who has any questions of Mr. Rose? Anyone on the committee that has any questions of Mr. Rose? Okay, Mr. Chesnoff, if we don't have any questions, and if we have some, we'll come back to him. Mr. Chesnoff, if you would like to give your statement.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm here to speak again in support of the bill. As you know, the process of creating oversight of police is a complicated matter. We've been through various iterations, and I think this bill really moves the ball forward for St. Louis. It contains some provisions that have been working well in other cities, so we're not going out on a limb. But at the same time, I think it's a progressive bill that moves things forward in terms of ensuring accountability for the city. There are a lot of moving parts to a bill like this, and I think it's not surprising that a couple issues did come up in the court case. They were relatively minor in terms of fixability, just a few word changes to solve those problems. And the bill takes care of that and allows us to move forward. I think Keith made a very good point that our current Civilian Oversight Board has been handicapped, kind of dead in the water because of the lawsuit and the injunction. And so we're functioning now at less than full capacity and need to move forward, and this bill does that. I would say there are things in the originally negotiated Board Bill 47 that I didn't agree with, which I wished were different. And those things, some of those things, survive in this committee substitute, but overall, it's a huge step forward. And there are not changes in this bill that I would say should cause anyone to change their vote. Hopefully some folks have thought about it, have seen the current situation in Memphis and others, and would vote yes, where before they were less than enthusiastic. But I would urge folks to vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone on the committee have questions for Mr. Chesnoff? Okay, Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chesnoff, could you elaborate a little bit about what the I guess the concessions, the negotiations that went into the original bill that Vaccaro wasn't super happy with?
Yeah, we had a little bit different view of how it all ought to be structured. So for instance, we wanted to see the Division of Civilian Oversight as not as a division of the Department of Public Safety, but its own department. That was a change that we thought would give it more independence and allow the Director of Public Safety, who often comes from a law enforcement perspective, to deal with that side of things, where the new department could deal with accountability on its own. That was an issue. The definition of the bill creates civilian investigators, and so it comes down to how do you define what civilian is? Is that someone who's currently out of law enforcement but has a law enforcement past, or is it someone with no law enforcement history? We would have liked to have seen a little bit tighter definition of civilian, and a greater number of civilians participating in the investigative process. But, you know, there's always give and take in the course of creating bills, and there are things to be said on both sides of those issues. And so we were happy with the bill as it turned out, even if we didn't, you know, win on every point that we recommended.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was just, I know that you all have invested a significant amount of time in this oversight work. And so I was curious what those were. But thank you so much for coming and testifying today and for always staying so engaged on this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderwoman Grassi?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I had to join another committee for quorum, and I'm not sure where we are. I just have one quick question of the sponsor whenever it's appropriate to ask.
It's always appropriate to ask at any time when you're recommended. I mean, when you're recognized, rather.
Okay, thank you so much. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, could you just clarify? I'm curious. I'm assuming that the fiscal note that was attached to your previous board bill 47 is still applicable to this board bill, and there's not going to be any additional expenditure of funds needed.
Absolutely, no additional expenditure.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. No further questions.
So, and I was just, Madam Chairwoman, I'm trying to communicate with Mr. Galley about how to go about changing those districts. And so he's saying that I need to
If it's on that page, we can do a friendly amendment. If it's just there.
it's on page 37.
Right. If it's just there, we can do a friendly amendment to change them around. We don't have to do a big deal.
Okay.
I'll take it. I'll accept a friendly, amendment. You don't even have to put it in writing or anything. And then it's already a committee substitute, and we can put as amended.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So for clarity, that was about the district recommendations that Mr. Rose submitted, and he put in he also put the map in the chat.
All right. Can you tell me why we didn't include the fiscal note from the previous one? Is it on here someplace? Because it should be, even if we have to add the one from, if it hadn't changed, we're supposed to have a fiscal note on bills like this.
Okay, let me reach back out to the clerk.
Okay.
I'll use any other questions.
Okay. Are there others that have questions? Mr. Chairman?
I just have one. I just want to make sure there were a couple speakers, John Chesnoff, and somebody wanted to make sure they did.
Mr. Rose spoke already, and John Chesnoff spoke while you were gone.
Okay, well, that's fine. I had to step out for a minute.
Right.
And you're running things. I'm just
Okay.
listening.
Now, there are a few people who are not on the committee. Is there anyone who's an alderperson that's not on the committee that has any questions for Mr. Chesnoff or Mr. Rose? I have one though. Mr. Chesnoff and I have been working on this board bill for a long time, of this ordinance. I've never voted for it. The most I've gotten to is present. So are you comfortable? One of the things that's always made me uncomfortable is that if you have a hostile mayor, you don't get good appointees. Are you still comfortable? And so that's one, I've been posting about that forever. Are you comfortable with the mayors appointing the commissioners? I mean, or the, what do we call them? The members, rather.
Yes, I'm comfortable with it. It's not my first choice. When we first introduced the idea of civilian oversight back in 2000, we recommended that there be a majority of elected members. And still believe in that basic democratic principle. Not that there aren't problems with elected members, who has the money to run, who puts out the most ads, and there are problems with elected members, but that was our preferred selection process for the majority of the members and was not well received at the time. When we negotiated a process as a second choice, I guess you'd say, we came up with this process that works from the bottom up, where the alderpersons are able to, who know their wards, know their areas, are able to recommend people, and those people get first look from the mayor. And then there's a check and balance on the mayor's power back to the people's legislative body, through the approval of the mayor's nominations. And so we're comfortable with that system. It's worked fairly well when it's been accurately applied for the current Civilian Oversight Board. And that same process is continued into this new bill. And so, yes, we're comfortable living with that model.
Okay, what about you, Mr. Rose? Are you comfortable with the mayor appointing?
I am, and honestly, it's not so much who's doing the appointing, it's actually the lack of appointments that's made me uncomfortable. We have a majority of the board members who are serving on expired terms, and sorry, I believe so at least. But I will say that almost everyone on the board has been on it for about 2 terms now. And there was really no discussion about re-upping those board members. I don't believe they came to the Board of Aldermen. I don't think there were any questions about their past experience and if they were even active in the meetings. As someone who's been attending the meetings, I will say that, especially for the first few years, it was very much a rubber stamp mentality. Very few questions asked. So I really don't mind who's appointing people as long as someone cares when they're making appointments.
Well, that is the problem, what you just said. The original person who was putting people on that board was very hostile to there being a fairness. So if you have a hostile mayor, then you have hostile appointees. I will agree with you about replacement. That's a problem with almost every commission and board we have right now. Francis Slay appointed most of those people to this day, and he's been gone now. This is the second mayor, and his people are still sitting there, and they've been expired, not only with this, but other things. So that is a big problem. And a lot of things is that then the mayors just want to reappoint, and I'm always the hostile person to that and raising hell, because I want some new, fresh people that reflect a new administration. And if you're telling me you're the same as the administration 2 administrations ago, who I know to be hostile, that's a problem for me, okay? That is why I don't like the mayors appointing, and even if we had some elected, because elected, then you have a way to get them removed. Appointed, it's very hard to get them removed. And then if the next mayor doesn't do anything, they just leave them there. And right now our legislation is written so that when people's term expire, they stay until a new person is appointed. And I think we need, after what I've seen with this mayor and the mayor afterwards, I think we need to add a caveat that says, if you don't appoint, then the Board of Aldermen shall make the appointments, because I don't think people should be able to stay for 3, 4, 5 terms from a previous administration. And it really does not give other people out in the community the ability to be on the boards and commissions. It just sits there because you don't have anybody maybe who's working commissions and boards or understands the process or understands the inclusion. For me, this mayor and the prior mayor and the prior mayor, none of them understood inclusion so that it was from all points of the city. People tend to want to include the Central West End. And for us, the people who live north of Page, which is me, we have been left out of boards and commissions forever. Francis Slay started that thing back in when he became mayor in 2001, and he continued it. And I rally against it all the time because that's a way of racism. When you don't let people sit on the commission that live north of Page, you're being racist. And people on this board just pass these things through and go, ah, ha, 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 they don't care. But I do care. And even people who don't want to sit on juries in my ward, they will say things like, well, can you help me get off? Nope, I sure can. I can call the judge and say, make sure they're on that jury because we want a diverse person from Channel Rocks Bridge to down on Grand and Gravois, and then we want all different kinds of people. And so that is why I have never voted for this, because I'm very uncomfortable with the mayors, because if you don't get a mayor that's a fair-minded person, you can get some really bad appointees. I do like the added part about having the alderperson who know their community and divide them up into divisions. I thought that was a good addition. And I, with this current administration attacking the alderpersons and saying we want to take stuff out for them to affirm about the ARPA funds, I find that so offensive because 2 or 3 people did something wrong. That's not the whole board of aldermen. And we still know our wards better than the mayor, unless the mayor tends to come from that community. You know your ward, you're much more on deck with it. And with ARPA funds or anything else, the mayor still can say no. The people who are the bureaucrats over in a community, over in a division or a department can say no. So I do like the alderman being included because you do know it. And so I think at each time we've brought a new board bill addressing this, we've gotten better and better and better. So I'm still uncomfortable with the mayor. So I'm still voting present, because I just think we should at least, if not all, have some members that are elected. And I think that we gave that up too easily. And I know you fought Mr. Chasnoff for it, but I just think we should keep coming back for that.
If I could make one other minor point about, there is a change in this bill, which is an improvement, might seem like a small tweak, but is actually, I think, kind of a big deal. In the original bill, it didn't say anything about members of the community giving public testimony when the nominees are confirmed. And this new bill makes that change so that there will be public testimony. And I think that is another way that we have improved the democratic process by making sure that people's voices are heard at that step in the process.
But I think we also should always send these kind of nominations to committee to be vetted. And a lot of times the mayors will try to just pass them on the floors and they give somebody a sponsor and then they just want to push it through. I'm always going to be the person objecting and ask it to go to committee, because when I first got here, you hardly ever pushed anybody through. Everybody went to committee. You had to talk about what the rules were. You had to see if they met all the criteria. And we tend not to do that now. We just tend to say, rush it through, because we have a lot of new people. And so they just think that's all right, but that's really not the correct way. That's what committees are for, to vet people and to make sure that somebody didn't slip through the cracks that's not supposed to be there. So I do agree with you having testimony about the people. That is an improvement also. And I think maybe by the year 2050, we might have this right. What do you think?
Fingers crossed.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you recognize.
Yeah, just a question. Can you, since I had to step out for that 5 or 6 minutes before we vote this, can you or somebody give me a summary of what the changes that are now in this versus what was in the other one? And I didn't have a choice. I had to step out. I'm just curious. I know one of the complaints that I got from some of the officers that talked to me was having Kim Gardner over IAD. Does this change that, or is that still the same? Or
do you want the sponsor of the bill to yield, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, or just anybody that.
Commissioner Cummings can speak to that as well. I'll let him speak to it.
The main changes are that the notice, officers will receive a 24-hour notice, or instead of being forced to be interviewed immediately, we have to give notice in compliance with state law, which is currently 24 hours. And then also the complaints have to be written. The original ordinance allowed complaints in any form. It would still have the public integrity unit, which would be an MOU between public safety and the circuit attorney. That's still there.
It's still there. That was one of, anyway, that was one of the complaints, on having family in there. That was just one of the complaints. But And oddly enough,
I
not-
wanna, but we should make sure we're clear that that power goes to and has already been in place for any circuit attorney, not just our current.
No, I understand. I just neighbors and friends and, you know, that asked. But anyway, I just was curious. I need what the differences were because I had, oddly enough, the minute we were doing the other thing, Channel 4 was outside my house going, oh, this is great. Can you come outside? And that's why I said I had to go outside and tell them what we did and said it was great. Not this one, but the other, you know, with all the youth violence and all. Anyway, I'm going to I was just curious before I voted any which way. Normally on the police stuff, I abstain anyway with my children there, but you know, but anyway, I'm just gonna, Vice Chairwoman, you're still in charge. I didn't want to vote on something until I knew what I was voting on.
Okay, another change we made, and this was a change from Mr. Rose. On page 37 of 43, we had the districts in place, but that was before we know where the districts were going to fall. And so we had to change. We did a friendly amendment. We're going to do a friendly amendment. And we're gonna, if you look at page 37 of 43, originally District 1 said wards 1 and 2, that stays, but Districts 2 said 3 and 4. And they weren't contiguous. And so we changed it to 4 and 5. And then District 3 said 5 and 6. And we changed that to 3 and 6. And then down at District 6, it said Ward 11 and 12. And we changed that to 11 and 14. And then District 13 said, District 7 said wards 13 and 14. And we changed that to 12 and 13 so that the wards were contiguous to one another, so you didn't have wards separated, and the commissioner or the representative would be somebody who represented both wards that were right there next to each other. So that was going to just be a friendly. We didn't even put that in writing because we're just going to do a friendly amendment with that.
And this, will this go back to the judge then, or this just automatic?
This wasn't anything the judge was upset about or put the reason why he ruled that we couldn't enforce it. This is just some cleanup. If we're going to do it, we might as well clean it up, because otherwise we're still going to have to change that. You don't want, let's just say District Ward is way over in South St. Louis, and then Ward 1 is over in South St. Louis, and Ward 13 or Ward 12 is over in North St. Louis. You don't want that person representing a district or a ward that's separated.
I guess what I was asking, so there's a challenge to the original one in court.
Right, but it doesn't involve that.
So this one supersedes the older one, right? It takes the place.
Yes, we repeal. She's repealing the last one, and she's telling, that's what this marked copy of the substitute committee substitute is, a marked copy of it, so we can see all the changes.
And is this one? And I know I'd asked even in the last time if anybody's talked to the police association and that, or is this one going to end up in court like the other one?
Well, since we were directly addressing and responding to concerns that came out of the lawsuit, we felt like that was their voice. And I've had outside conversations. I have run into them in public settings and spoke with them about that. Again, this bill was introduced back in December 9th, as a matter of fact. So people that are engaged have been watching it and reading it and reaching out to me about it, and the ongoing conversations with our city councilor's office. And so that is how we came to Board Bill 137, now committee for it.
Okay, I just was curious that this is just going to go the same, back in the court. I was glad that the one that dealt with the jail, the courts took that one out, and in their meeting, I don't, on a personal note, I know what the intent of that bill was, because I put that together. Sometimes I don't think, and I know that they're still meeting a lot, but I don't know they're getting any access that I felt they should have. But I guess in time they'll tell me. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Madam Vice Chair, you're in charge. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, so I just want to be clear from the sponsors. So you did not meet with either Police Officers Association. You felt that since there was a lawsuit, the court was addressing their issues. Is that correct?
And that's how I was also advised since since it was an ongoing case and since this was our attempt, good faith effort to now bring it to a space where we can work collectively. If we're ever going to get past this, work collectively. So this is, if the lawsuit was their response and then it's in a legal setting, then this was our now response to try to come together on.
Okay, but was there any kind of, sometimes when you have a lawsuit, you sit down and you try to find a way where you agree on the issues. Did that ever happen between, say, because we were the defendants, the city was the defendants and they were the plaintiffs. Was there some kind of settlement conference or something like that?
Well, and I'm sorry, I don't know if I can name some of the names that I just don't know if I can. Some of the people on the other side that met in response to this. But again, if the lawsuit was their response to the bill, and then the findings were the judge's response. So this then worked with some entities within the department and the city council's office and our Division of Civilian Oversight met and came to make sure, and that's why I use those words because I know you understand them better than me, expressly and unmistakably, that this is in compliance with the judge's findings, which came out of the response that these two associations had. So that's why, and here, I know that they watch this just as engaged as everybody else does. I know they're doing some other fights now, right up in Jefferson City. So they're watching it and they know and have connections just like everybody else to make phone calls, hey, to get on here like the public does when we have these committee hearings. And that's why I tried to stretch it out and not have the hearing when we first introduced it in December and I talked and I came and spoke about it on the African American Caucus call about what was coming up. I've spoken with my colleagues outside of this about what this was. I mean, anybody who had this addresses concerns that were brought forth. So in moving forward, you know, of course they can always call and talk, but I was advised through some other entities involved that just sitting down myself with them, since it is an active lawsuit that's open right now, that I couldn't do that.
Oh, it's still active. I thought that the judge had come to some findings and there was an agreement. So it's still open and active.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Alderwoman from the 27th. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Boyd.
She has her hand up, but
I know, let me call
she
her.
must be hiding.
Let me see if she's.
Here I am, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just getting ready to call you.
No, I heard you, thank you. No, I just had a question. I too am abstaining from voting on this, but I just want to ask, now, is my understanding they are now giving the people on the Civilian Oversight Board cores? I'm just asking a question. That's what I'm trying to find out. Okay, that's all I need to know. Okay, I'm fine with it. I just want to know.
Okay, your hand is still up. If you're finished, you can let it down. Just to follow up a little bit. So I was thinking this lawsuit was over. So it is under the advice of our city councilor that you're doing these changes and repealing the other orders and just with what has been going on with the lawsuit, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just thinking what happens if the judge comes up with something else, we'll just come back and try to change it again. I don't understand why we're doing it before it's a final outcome.
Well, and I hope I'm not overstepping, and because here they couldn't be on the call today, but we're hoping that in this good faith effort, that will now, it won't be applicable because that bill won't even be in place anymore. And now they'll see that the new bill addresses those and then we can get to the business of the Civilian Oversight Board.
So, and the Alderwoman from the eighth attorney, usually that's what you have a settlement conference for. And so you get that all out of the way so that everybody's on the same page. So I just find this a
And hey,
strange
Madam Chairwoman, again, my purview might not have reached to that purview. There may have been a settlement conference, which is resulted in some of the things that came out of this bill, but me not being aware of the different things they can and cannot do, I asked them and they couldn't be on the call themselves to speak to that. So I'm doing the best to stand in the gap for that conversation.
Well, has the city council give you any written opinion about what you're doing at all?
Oh, yeah, the bill is, what you mean, our written opinion or the opinion from the judge?
No, from the city councilor saying, okay, the bill is from the city councilor. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And some other people that was engaged from the department.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman from the eighth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to speak to that a little bit too, that, you know, I think there's an urgency here to try to get something back in place, to get these, you know, to get the board rounded out, to get those appointments made, to get operations moving forward, and with the Detention Facilities Oversight Board as well. So it sounds like the work has been done kind of behind the scenes here, and this is one of our options as a defendant is to change the bill that's underlying the lawsuit and work out there. So, I mean, I guess if there's not a formal written agreement, a formal settlement agreement, they could come back and sue again. But hopefully we've addressed enough here, you know, and I would say, I don't know that in the course of the legislation that has created this Civilian Oversight Board, we've ever gotten, you know, full support from the Police Officers Association or from the Ethical Society, or, you know, I think that this is always going to be a bit confrontational, there's going to be a bit of a conflict here always, because civilian oversight is designed for that, is designed for a healthy criticism, a healthy oversight there. And so I think that this is a great step forward. We're ironing out a lot of issues here. And if the city councilor is, I haven't been involved in this in any way, so I can't say one way or the other either. But this is an area that I'm really passionate about as well. And so I'm grateful to the Alderwoman from the 26th for staying engaged in this, and helping us get this fixed and get this body moving forward.
So what I'm going to say is that I worry about the judge feeling like we're interfering with the case in the middle of it. And then the judge coming and saying, and by the way, and that one is also not going to be enforced. Usually when a legislative body changes something, for instance, Congress, when the Supreme Court comes back with something they don't like, they wait until there's a issue and a ruling and everything. Then they come back and say, okay, we want to change this to be reflective. I just don't know if it's a good form to do it in the middle, if we haven't had some kind of settlement conference where people say, okay, we agree this is what needs to be changed. So that's my concern. Is the judge going to be upset about doing this?
I guess that's potentially a fair point. It's something that we could talk to the city councilor's office about, but as we're getting down here to these last couple of meetings, I would love to move this forward to the full board, and we can try to have those conversations with the city councilor before we get to perfection and third read and final passage.
You have anything else? Your hand's still up.
Sorry, no, that was it.
Okay. And I see you, Mr. Chesnoff, but I always recognize members of the committee first. Alderman from the 24th.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just want to commend the Alderwoman from the 26th on this. I know I've spent significant political capital going back and cleaning up legislation when there's been some unintended consequences behind the legislation. I wish that I had more of an opportunity to review this and to discuss it with various stakeholders before it was in committee. This committee sub came, a bit late in the game for me. I know many of us do review all these bills and read all the bills, and I share some of Alderwoman Tyus's concern that we may be putting ourselves in a more untenable position in litigation. But it sounds like, and will the Alderwoman from the 26th yield for a question?
Go ahead.
Did this board bill come from the city councilor's office, or is this something that you had counsel for the board draft?
The city council's office.
Okay, so, and I know that you haven't been privy to all of the potential settlement discussions, but my guess is, do we have anyone from the city councilor's office on the line still?
They weren't able to participate in this call today.
Okay. Well, my guess is that they wouldn't be putting forward a board bill that they feel like would put them in a worse position in ongoing litigation. And so without knowing a little bit more, I'm inclined to vote to get this out of committee today and then circle up with various stakeholders. So my support in getting this out of committee today is kind of hinged on the idea that we are bumping up against the end of our session. And I know that, none of us know if we're going to be back here in a few months' time. And I know what it's like to feel like you have put forward a piece of legislation and have the desire to clean that up and not be sure if you're going to be able to. So for that reason, I'm going to support this coming out of committee today. I may very well have various things to say about it once we hit perfection and final votes, but Alderman from the 26th, you have my support in getting this out today, and I hope that we can clean this up. And my hope is that this is something that the city councilor's office and the plaintiffs have worked on together, and that this may be the way to get out of that that court battle, because the more time and energy and money we spend there, that's less that we can be doing elsewhere. So you do have my support on this today, and with that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other committee members have questions or concerns? Any non-committee members that are members of the Board of Aldermen? I hear you. Okay, Mr. Chasnoff, you had your hands up.
Yes, I hope this is helpful and clarifies. When the initial lawsuit was filed, they asked that the law be overturned, but they also asked for a preliminary injunction that it be, halted immediately because it could cause potential harm. So the judge did issue a ruling on the injunction. He ruled in favor of it because the ordinance violated state law in two particular points that Mr. Brumman has pointed out. So we do have a ruling from the judge that clarifies his position. This bill solves the two objections that he had. And so any future lawsuit that might be filed wouldn't probably have much likelihood of success, since the judge has already said that these are the only two issues that he had a problem with.
Okay.
I hope that's helpful.
It is helpful. I just don't, I'm uncomfortable in the middle of litigation that you're changing legislation. Maybe this judge might not be upset because it's addressing what he said was a problem. But normally, to me, you would wait until the end of litigation. And I will address that. I don't like that no one from the city council was here to answer any questions, but because I think that is always the thing that they should, especially if you created the legislation, you ought to be able to come here before us to answer our questions about it. So I don't think it's fair to the Alderwoman from the 26th. I think that's bad form. Actually, we pay them a lot of money and we don't see them often. So I'm disappointed. But I'm not going to vote for it. I'm a present vote anyway, so I'm not going to be trying to get in the middle of it. It going forward. Mr. Commissioner Brummel, is it your understanding that those were the only things that the judge had concerns with, was the two that you talked about?
Yes, those are the two things that he felt the plaintiffs had a reasonable chance of winning on the merits. The rest of them were without merit. The rest of the plaintiff complaints is a phrase he used often in his opinion.
So I don't know if you talk with the lawyer. So my question would be, why didn't we then just say, okay, we're going to change those two things and settle this lawsuit? Why is the lawsuit still open?
I'd have to defer to the attorneys on this. This is the attorney's plan on how to correct this. It's the best I can say it.
And so does the sponsor know why we didn't? I understand we're changing this. So then we're changing the very things that the judge said was a problem and that they had maybe a possibility of prevailing on. So but I don't understand then why didn't we just say these are the things we're going to change and this will be the settlement? So that's why I don't like the attorneys are not here, because they can't answer that. You weren't there.
I think I know the direction you're going in, Madam Chairwoman, because I naively said the same thing. I think the amount of changes that we had to make, they said that it did have to be a new board bill.
Oh, I know that, but I'm just saying, you in the conference, you could have said, we're going to try to pass out this, and that. And we're going to change this and bring it back through. Maybe they're just waiting for us to get it passed so they can say it wasn't that we attempted to. Maybe they're saying that it's been done. So maybe that's the reason. I just would like to hear what the city councilor, what their thought process was behind that. Alderman from the 24th.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tyus. If I were to take off my my alderman hat and put on my attorney hat, if I was the attorney on the plaintiff side here, the city telling me we're going to try to get this changed certainly wouldn't be enough to make me go away. I would say go and change it and then I'll go away. And that may be what's happening here. I hate to speculate on it, but I know you're an attorney as well, Vice Chairwoman. I know Alderwoman Rice is. I don't know if we have anyone else on the call, Mr. Brumman, who is an attorney, but I certainly wouldn't go away with the mere speculation that I would trust the defense attorney to herd the cats that is the Board of Aldermen to get legislation across the board. I'd say, okay, go get legislation across the board that fixes these issues, and then the case will be essentially moot at that point. But that's just me, opining. And at this point, I will take off my attorney hat and put back on my alderman hat. Thank you.
Well, that's what I just said, but also that's why you can have a settlement that says if you change these things, then we will agree that we withdraw our lawsuits, and then that closes it up. That's what I'm saying. I don't like them not being here to tell me that. Okay, if you're putting something forward and you're giving it to the alderwoman, she's not an attorney, you haven't made her aware of these things. It is just as easy to, in a settlement agreement, say this is what has to be done, and then we'll drop the lawsuit. Alderwoman from the 19th.
This has been an interesting conversation, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to be present today because I don't think that the city councilor's office has been responsible in this process. Just as you just stated, there could have been an opportunity for them to present to the judge and to the plaintiffs their intent and purpose. It could have been clearly defined with the alderwoman who is presenting the bill. That would have given all of us an opportunity to be clear and understanding and feel very comfortable with our vote. But I believe you're going to have the votes to pass it out of committee. We can continue this conversation. And I hope that the city councilor's office becomes more responsible as we move forward and get this wrapped up properly. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else has anything they want to add, questions, concerns on the committee or off the committee? All right. All right, then I will, per the, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to go ahead and proceed with the bill?
What Judge Judy says, you're the boss, applesauce. So it's
All right.
it's your, yeah, because I'm joining late. I'm just.
Okay. All right, so I will entertain a motion, but I want to make it perfectly clear, I'm not voting for this, and I haven't in any other past lives. And you can go on my Facebook page, which I haven't been on in 6 or 7 months, and you'll see if you go back in the years where I talked about what I think is wrong with the bill. But it's gotten better, and I do acknowledge that. But I'd entertain a motion to pass out Board Bill 137 with the do pass recommendation.
I move we pass Board Bill 137 committee substitute as amended with our friendly amendment with a do pass recommendation.
Thank you for that.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion that we pass out Board Bill 137 committee substitute as amended, because we did add the fiscal note and we also changed those things about the wards. And we have a second, because several of us have stated the intent to vote present. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Alderwoman Davis,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Ingracia.
Alderwoman Tyus should go first.
I'm sorry, Alderwoman Tyus. I do have it marked on my sheet. Alderwoman Tyus,
She's doing that on purpose, but that's okay. Present.
Alderwoman Ingracia,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Bosley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice,
Aye.
Alderman Ryan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderman Todd,
Aye.
Alderman Page,
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys, Chair Vaccaro,
I abstain.
Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd. We have 2 present, 7 aye, 1 abstain.
By your vote, you sustain the motion, and Board Bill 137 committee substitute as amended is passed out of committee with a do pass recommendation. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair. We have nothing left, I don't think, but just in
No,
case
that's
we do.
it. Other than, we're gonna be back again next week. I would otherwise say this would be our last one, but we have Alderman Todd's resolution. I'm still hoping that we can get some police and FBI and people in here for that meeting. And still reaching out to MSD and a couple of people about the flood process and what's going on. So I think we'll still have one more meeting. Otherwise, I would say it's been great working with everybody. Shane kind of did at the end of his meeting. We're not going to do any more airport, but we will still have at least one more meeting, neither of which are board bills, so neither of which have to, they're come out. They're just answers. And I know Jesse would like to have, Alderman Todd, I should say, would like to have us vote on his resolution. I'm hoping we get some people in here to help. Other than that, I just take a motion to adjourn. I know the
Wait, I have something to say.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I would like to address the forum shopping, the illegal forum shopping done by the president as it relates to the mechanics bill. It is a flagrant violation of our rules. To send the mechanics bill to the health committee is a flagrant violation of our rules. It has, in all the 30 years, nothing like that has ever happened. The mechanics bill goes under the building division, which is under public safety, which should have come here. So I am appalled because the president ran on a platform of transparency and clarity, and she was always attacking the former president about doing just what she did. And it was such a sneaky, underhanded way that she did it because you didn't even put it on our agenda for anybody to say anything. And then when I tried to tell you that it was illegal, you turned my mic off as though anybody can turn my mic off if I want to say something. It is illegal. I'm going to put it in writing. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. That bill should be sent back to the Public Safety Committee. That shopping is wrong. It's wrong on you, Mr. Narayan, as an attorney, to go along with that. You should be insisting that the president follow our rules. Everybody who's on this hearing right now, or this Zoom meeting, knows how I am about the rules. And if I'm wrong about a rule, I have no problem in saying it. But you cannot run on transparency and, oh, we have to make sure everybody knows what's going on. And then you try to do things in the dark, because I'm never going to let it stay that way. This is wrong. That bill being reported out of health, the Alderwoman from the 6 should not have heard it. She should have said, no, that is not our rules. Everybody who participated in that is ridiculous, and that should not occur. And that forum shopping and trying to go around our rules is wrong. And I just want to make that clear, that you're saying that I don't sit on a lot of committees, but the committees I'm on, I want to have an input into it. And all of us who sit on public safety should have had an input. And for the president, either she doesn't know and she and her staff doesn't know, and they need to ask somebody, or they need to get familiar with our rules, because it very, very succinctly states that there are certain things that go under standing committees. And so that was wrong. And I intend to make that point again. So you get ready to turn off my mic when we come in Friday, because I tend to make it, and I'll put all the written documentation in front of you. And then not to put it on the agenda so as to try to hide it, then that's something you plan to do. And you ought to be ashamed of yourself to do that. And you ought to be calling up our former president and saying, so now I understand I'm doing the same thing, because it wasn't that it was wrong. It's just that I want to do it instead of you. I hate people who break the rules. We have them there so everybody has a fair chance. I cannot stand it. I don't like it. I don't like, for me, when I do it, if I do it, I'll say I'm wrong. Megan Green is wrong. The president of the Board of Aldermen was wrong to send that board bill to health. It is a public safety matter, and it should have been sent here. And the alderman who is sponsoring should request that it be sent to public safety, not try to go along with the go along. That is not right. You cannot stand on good government and then you don't do good government. Good government is something for everybody, and following the rules is for everybody. And I am appalled that the Public Safety Committee, for the first time in 31 years, did not get to hear something about the mechanics bill, because the president was cheating. It's pure out cheating. Okay, so that's all I want to say.
Anyone else?
I echo that. I just would like to say that the Public Safety Committee should be hearing public safety matters, and the curfew bill was sent to Youth and Education Matters, and that really has nothing to do with actual public safety. You know, curfew is about a time limit in which ordinances are broken to protect the actual youth from potential hazards of being outside after post time where we know nothing but bad things happen. So with that, you know, that was purposely done as well. And, you know, it's been heard in public safety multiple times. I think we all know that this is a public safety issue. So it was, you know, purposely sent to Youth and Education Matters. And I don't believe that who is the public chairman of Youth and Education Matters?
It used to be the president. I don't know who took it over.
Well, I think she still is. So, you know,
No, she can't be I don't know.
She can't be. So that absolutely, there's not one. If you go on the committee's list right now, there is no president. I mean, there is no chairman for Youth and Education Matters. So who's supposed to be calling that meeting?
If it's probably too late, but if it's sitting there, you can go on the floor to pull it out of a committee and move it.
It hadn't been 30 days.
Yeah, no, but if there's nobody there, I wonder.
There's a vice chair there someplace, but it shouldn't, his point is.
No, I get it.
Right, you shouldn't be shopping, you should be following the rules, and you can't run on high-handed good government and almost be gleeful when those 3 men got indicted And don't think that that's coming for you when you're doing the same thing. And you better start looking at who got money, because that's what I'm looking at. Who got payoffs, who got donations, because that's what I start to look at. Why are you doing this?
I just got a text saying Rice is the chair, Alderwoman Rice, but
Okay.
doesn't say that on the city's website. But either way, I refer to Alderwoman Rice, but the point still comes to that's a public safety issue. And that shouldn't be going to youth and education matters. We don't have any real authority over education. That's for the St. Louis Public School Board. So when it comes down to what we're trying to do for public safety in the name of public safety, whether it eventually will get to education or not, that's really not our, we don't have an authoritative position there. We have to work with the school board, which is not a problem. We still have to get through the public safety piece, which is what that was intended for. So,
And who enforces curfew?
the police department.
Thank you.
Exactly. So with that, I thought that was pretty interesting and unnecessary.
I think it's going to be an interesting full board meeting this Friday. Yeah, I believe. Anyone else? Alderwoman Rice or anybody? I don't know. A lot of people may have left to go over to, there's another meeting that started at 2 that's been on hold. Okay, well, if no one else has anything else, then Alderwoman Davis, I hope you're feeling better. I know you've been a little bit on the ill side. You look good today. Hopefully you're feeling better. I'm glad you made our meeting.
Thank you, sir.
And, hopefully maybe we'll see you Friday in person. That'd be nice if you can make it. I understand. Anyway, having no whatever, if anybody wants to move that we adjourn, well, we can go to another meeting.
I so move that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and we excused. Well, we have a motion to excuse the aldermen, the people that weren't here. There were 2, and we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll see y'all at the next week's meeting on this.